Hey y'all, welcome to the Grahamstead. I'm Jenny. I thought today would be a perfect day for a spring garden tour. So let me show y'all what we've got growing. All right, we'll start right up front. I've got just a small trellis right here. These are two brand new growing areas that I just fixed up at the beginning of this season. Eventually, I'm going to add raised beds right here, but I figured I might as well use the space and get something growing in the ground till I get my material. These are Seminole pumpkins and just some marigolds. The Seminole pumpkins, they've got, I don't know, maybe some type of fungus or something on them, which is not surprising because that's kind of common in my garden. Because this year I had to treat all of these tomatoes for fungus. These are my big two arch trellises. I like to do the cherry tomatoes on the arch trellis. And then this centered row right here is just a vertical trellis that I like to grow Determinate tomatoes on. These are my potatoes that are not looking great, but I usually don't do good with potatoes. Got some basil here. Like I said, these are cherry tomatoes. These are on the arch trellis. I do have sunflowers in the middle. And I did treat these for tomato blight, but they are looking really great right now. You can see we're already starting to get some cherry tomatoes. But you can also still see a little bit of the evidence of the blight. So I've just been pruning these and treating them. Some more tomatoes. Some more blooms and tomatoes. But you can see we're starting to get lots of tomatoes. There's some more. There's some more. I love cherry tomatoes. These are sunflowers that we started from seed. More tomatoes, some marigolds, some purple basil. This row right here is all Determinate tomatoes. This is the Homestead variety of Determinate tomatoes. So we use these mostly for canning and making, you know, if I was to make sauce, I'll make a lot of stewed tomatoes out of these tomatoes in particular. Oh, here's one. And so these are starting to get some tiny little tomatoes on them as well. It's like a medium-sized slicer. And since they're Determinate, most of the fruit will come in all at once, which makes them a great option for canning. Oh, here's a really great tomato. Nice. And then on this side of the arch, more basil. And more cherry tomatoes. Another sunflower. These two cherry tomato plants look really great. And I believe all my cherry tomatoes are a mix of black cherry, golden cherry, and Chadwick cherry tomatoes. Now right here, this is a volunteer sunflower plant. It is full of blooms, and volunteer, it grew right by itself. We're about to get our first flower. Looks like these are going to be the yellow sunflowers. These are really great for cut flowers. And early on, I noticed that the squash bugs, you see one there, and there's one right there. Oh, there's one right there. And there. And right there as well. So I noticed early on that the squash bugs were getting on this. which is right by my tomato plants. So what I did was decided just to let them be on the sunflower plant. So I'm not going to spray this sunflower plant with anything to get rid of those bugs on it. I'm going to let it serve as a trap crop. And so if you notice something in your garden that is not, your food source, or something that you're done with and it is collecting bugs, you can use that as a trap crop to attract the bugs to it instead of being on my tomato plants. So I'm just going to leave those be as long as they don't get completely out of control and take over the tomatoes. All right, so moving to the back of the garden. These are all carrots. Back here I've got more carrots and marigolds. I've got some tomatoes in this bed. Couple tomatoes down there. These tomatoes don't look great. They look kind of puny and skinny, but they're getting tomatoes, so can't be doing too bad. I do have a couple radishes sprinkled in here. And then this is carrots as well. These look great. Got some onions still going. These little pepper plants right here are Scotch Bonnets. These got off to a rough start, but they're starting to look better. So you can see on this one how it's got some yellowing at the bottom. So I've just been putting composted manure on them, and they have also been sprayed with a fungicide along with the tomatoes. But this bed is definitely companion planted. You see I've got onions in here, I've got carrots in there, and pepper plants. Same with this bed. I've got onions and some pretty nice sized carrots. Got more Scotch Bonnets over here. And the cucumbers. These are my cucumbers that I started inside. They stayed up on my back porch for quite a while, and then they got transplanted into the garden. They have not done a whole lot of growing. They only recently started to get some growth on them, finally. And I have been fertilizing these as well with meat chicken manure, baby meat chicken manure. Composted cow manure, and they have also gotten treatment for fungus because you can see kind of on these leaves right here I am also using a different trellising method with these right here. I've got a string tied all the way up to the top, as you can see, and they are just climbing right up that string. That is dill. Dill is supposed to be a good repellent for pickle worms, which I have a huge problem with every year. So we'll see if those dill plants actually help. I've never done that before, so hopefully it works well. All right, this row right here are bell pepper plants. They also got off to a rough start once they got put in the garden. They looked really great up on my back porch as starts, but once I put them in the garden, they really started to look kind of bad. So I've been babying them. They also have been getting composted cow manure on a weekly basis and are starting to look much, much better. You can see how some of the older leaves were definitely yellow, but now the tops are getting nice and green. And you can actually see some little pepper buds in there. Hope you can see it good on this one. Couple carrots. Carrots end up everywhere. So these are looking great. You can really see the pepper buds on that one. Those are bell peppers. Then I have another trellis right here with more cucumbers. These ones are looking good. They've been getting the regular fertilizer also of the baby meat chicken poo and composted cow manure. And once I started doing that, they really took off and really started growing good. Climbing that trellis. There's even a couple of little, starting to get some little baby cucumbers. Let's see if I can find one. Yep. There's a little baby cucumber right there. And another right there. Hopefully we have a good cucumber year. I always lose them to the worms. So hopefully we get a good flush before the bugs get too bad. All right, moving over here. That's a banana pepper plant. Looking okay. Actually has a pepper on it. I bought this one as a start though. I did not start that one here at the house. And these are early girl bush tomatoes that I just picked up. There's about 6 of them right there. Just because I had an empty row. So onions came out of this bed, so I went ahead and filled them up with some tomatoes. Fruit after root. And these rows are looking excellent. These are green beans. I'm definitely starting to get little handfuls of beans, but I think soon this whole row is going to need to be picked. It's doing really good. This next row is zipper peas. They are growing really great as well. And then I have 4 more rows, succession plantings of, these are green beans. They were sowed 2 weeks after this row. And then this is zipper peas as well, which was also sowed 2 weeks after the first zipper pea row. And then 2 weeks later, I sowed these. These are actually black beans. This right here is a volunteer tomato. I grew tomatoes in this spot last spring. And it is looking really great. It has lots of little tomatoes on it already. I do need to get some sort of a trellis around it to get it kind of secured and up off the ground. We've actually got a couple tomatoes over here that volunteered. Here's another one right at the end of the rows, conveniently. And the volunteer tomatoes always do so good. They're so hardy. And that one has lots of little blooms on it as well. All right. Let's walk over here. In this bed are my strawberries, which we're getting a ton of strawberries. I come out here and really every other day I pick about 5 or 6, enough for a good lunch. They're so good too. And then in the empty spaces because eventually the strawberry plants are gonna take over this area. But while we had some empty space, I went ahead and sowed some heat tolerant spinach. That's what these little seedlings are. We'll see how they do. It's a variety that I've never grown before, so we'll see. Over here I've got zucchini Those are some radishes, more dill, and I have some pole beans going up this little trellis. The trellis isn't near tall enough, so I may add something to the top of it. More zucchini. These are also getting lots of blooms on them. They're looking pretty good. You can see my bean trellis. It goes over to my next raised bed. Those beans are looking great. In the bed, you can see the yellow squash flower down there. That is a scallop squash, which I don't think they're getting quite enough sun in this bed. They're kind of being shaded out by these beans. And then I have this kale. It's like monster kale trying to take over. So I really need to get in there and thin that out so my scallop squash can get a little bit more sun. And then over here we have some daisies and some other little wildflower seeds that my daughter had that I threw in. More daisies. We would really like to get into some cut flower gardening, so we're really trying to add that. But my seeds that I sowed for my flowers are growing kind of slow. These daisies I bought already started, and there's one of those lubbers. Oh, they're awful. They're everywhere out here. And then the other day I did put in a couple lantana plants. So the garden is looking great. I love my raised beds. We just put those in last year, and they've been a great addition. I make compost tea in that barrel right there, chicken manure tea. Oh, that's right, I've got black-eyed peas right here, and a vertical trellis for them. We still have a little bit of space. We could squeeze in a few more things here and there. I'm excited for this garden. All right, y'all, so that's where we're at with the spring garden so far. It is definitely moving right along. We had a little bit of a rough start with quite a few things, but everything is really starting to dry out and bounce back. I think now that it's recovered from all that, everything's really going to start taking off and doing well. So I am very hopeful for my peppers and cucumbers. Hopefully we get lots of those, and lots of beans and peas and cherry tomatoes and carrots. Can't go wrong. So that's where we're at, y'all. And hey, if you haven't already, like and subscribe to our channel.